Hello and welcome to another great Tacoma video. If this is your first time stopping by, please go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I upload, and stay tuned because in this video I will be covering how to debadge your Tacoma. This is my video on how to debadge your Tacoma. There are other videos like this on YouTube, but this one is mine. The good news is debadging your Tacoma is relatively easy and you just need a few simple things you see here. First, I would definitely recommend getting some fishing line of some kind. The higher the strength, the better, so it doesn't snap. I picked this up at Walmart today for I think it was $2.50, so definitely affordable. It's 250 yards. That should be plenty to get this job done. If you do not have access to fishing line, and you are driving a newer truck, you might be able to get away with using dental floss. If you do not have dental floss lying around, well, that's just gross, and you should know that gingivitis is the #1 cause of all tooth decay. But seriously, dental floss might work on newer trucks because the decals are newer, the adhesive is newer. It hasn't had all that exposure to the elements to really bake in, so it should be a lot softer. But my truck's about 3 years old now, actually 3 years old this month. Happy birthday, truck. So I tried dental floss on this already and it did not work, so I'm using the fishing line. Next, you will need a pair of gloves just to protect your hands while the fishing line doesn't dig into your skin. Simple pair of scissors to actually cut the fishing line off the spool. And then lastly, you may or may not need glue gun. I would definitely recommend getting this type. I've used it before on all kinds of sticker, decal adhesives, and it gets stuff right off. The good thing about when you're debadging, it's usually a very thick, it's not really an adhesive, it's almost like a actual sticker, foam sticker. And usually when you pull the badge off, actually all that's left is that foam sticker. And usually it's solid enough that you can actually just peel it off either with your fingernail or something like that. That's why I said you may or may not need glue gun, but definitely have it on hand just in case. Alright, so before I get started, here is the badge I will be removing today. It is the standard side Tacoma badge on the side of pretty much every Tacoma, I believe, at least for the second gens. As you can see, there is nothing wrong with this particular badge. It actually came chrome with the truck and I ended up plasti dipping it a few years ago. So you can see it holds up pretty well on the multiple car washes, all that stuff with the weather. So you might be asking yourself, Tacomaholic, why on earth are you removing this perfectly good badge? Well, the answer, my friend, is very simple. I have a custom badge that I will be replacing this with in I'm going to try to get to that video this weekend, so definitely check that out when it's uploaded in just a few days. Okay, so step one, it should be pointed out that I am doing this in the summertime, so this badge has been sitting in the sunlight all day, so it is definitely warmed up. If you're trying this in winter or on a cooler day, I'd definitely recommend using a hairdryer or something just to warm this up. Not to the point where you're going to start damaging the paint, obviously, but the warmer the backing is on this stuff, the easier it will be to get your, whatever you're using as your string, to get that through. So I should be fine. I already did the other side with this and I had no issues, so that's why I'm not using a hairdryer, but just keep that in mind if you're doing this on a colder day. As you can see, I have my gloves, I've got my fishing line ready to go. You can start from either side. I've definitely found it's easiest if you start on the side with the, I guess the skinniest point of entry. So you can see the left side of this T is definitely going to be an easier way to get this started versus the right side of the A over here, because it'll just be less resistance. Another quick thing to point out when you're doing this, you don't want to, once you get this behind here, you don't want to just pull it through. You want to sort of saw it up and down in a slow motion, and the string may break a few times, but hey, like I mentioned earlier, it's $2.50, so you're not going to break the bank, so don't worry about it. Just cut a new piece and continue on. So here we go. Hardest thing is usually getting it started. Just slip it back there. Once you're behind, you'll feel the squishiness of the foam, and just slowly start sliding it up and down. You can see I'm not moving that much. Start sliding pretty quick. Keep steady pressure. You can see the string threading a little bit, so let's see how much I get before it snaps. Yep, and there's the first snap, so let me go get a new one of those. So if your string does snap, like this happened to me, just get a new one, start on the same side, and it will go right through, and just continue on wherever you left off. So got the tail end of the first A right here. On the Tacoma badge in particular, it is one whole piece, so it does make it a little easier to come off versus doing all these separate pieces. And there's my second one. Alright, more than halfway through now. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And there it is. Okay, so at this point it is broken from the adhesive. It's just sort of sticking on there, so you can simply pry it up. Usually if you just lift with your fingers, just be careful so this doesn't bounce and scratch the paint any. It'll come right off, one whole piece, so this is actually still good to use. And here you see what I was mentioning earlier, all this sort of foam adhesive, which does peel away relatively easy once you just start on one side. Get your fingernail under there and just sort of, you can usually use your whole the flesh of your finger once you get it going. I'll try to do this first letter real quick. Obviously I don't want to film this whole part of just removing the sticky part. And when you're doing this part though, I will mention, take your time, because if you can keep this together as one big piece versus a bunch of smaller pieces, it will definitely be a lot easier to get this off. Once it gets thick enough to grab, you can sort of pull on it and get it to loosen up that way. So I'm almost done with this T here, you can see. Alright, I don't want to bore you too much with just removing this part, so why don't we just say it is finished right about now. And there you have it, all adhesive removed. You can see it left some trace amounts. You can actually read the Tacoma outline there. So the next step will involve the glue gun. Okay, so with the glue gun, you are just going to blot it on your microfiber towel or whatever you're using, and just sort of I don't like to rub it in there because it's still dirty. I don't want to grind anything into my paint. So just make sure all the letter residue you see is soaked. And glue gun is great stuff because the more it soaks in, the stronger it gets and the quicker it loosens stuff up. So let it sit for about 30 seconds and give one area a test wipe to see how it's coming off. If it is not coming off, don't worry, just let it sit for another 30 seconds or a minute and keep trying until it does come off. See, I rubbed in the middle. It is coming off a little bit. Got to push some, so I'll let it soak for another 30 seconds or so. I like to do just side-to-side motions instead of circular to help avoid those swirls if you do get anything. This stuff is perfectly safe for your paint as long as you don't let it sit there forever and dry in the sun. Okay, so at this point all of the adhesive has been removed with the glue gun. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on camera or not because of the black and the shadow, but there is still a slight outline on the paint of where the Tacoma badge is. This is not the adhesive. I guess it's just micro scratches in the finish. So at this point, if I was not going to put a new badge on, this is where you would buff out the clear coat and fix it with some kind of car polish, which would take that right off. It's completely smooth to the touch. However, I am not going to do that because this will actually work out for me because, as I mentioned earlier, I will be reinstalling a new custom side badge. So with the shadow that's remaining right here, I can actually use that to line up the new badge perfectly and the old shadow will just disappear underneath that. However, before I do that, I mentioned earlier, Goo Gone's safe on your paint, but you don't want to leave it on there. So I just have a bucket with my car wash. I'll just go ahead and wipe that off thoroughly. Do not forget to do that. Just go ahead and wipe the whole area. Don't forget to wipe below in case any of the Goo Gone ran down because of good old gravity. And after you wash this off, go ahead and rinse it off with regular water and you are finished. And that does it for another video. If you found it helpful, please go ahead and subscribe. Check out my other playlist. Give the video a like, comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.